What's your best childhood memory? Why? Watching my stepdad call the principal of my school in 4th grade out on his bullshit right in front of me. Because it was the first time I had a father figure in my life who cared enough about me to stand up for me. Remember what he called out? My principal kept making BS claims that my mom wasn't properly taking care of me, clean clothes etc. My mom is a neat freak, so I had clean clothes etc. 100% of the time, and I never had issues about going hungry or anything of the sort. To this day I cannot understand where the claims were coming from. But they stopped after my stepdad called him a twat who doesn't do his job properly, who needs to get his head checked. I'm quoting you dad someday. I quote this guy's dad most days. I also quote this guy's dad. And on the wall, where hangs above, the staple sign of live laugh love, the quote displayed, the best he had, is simply, twat, from this guy's dad. Love every single time I bump into one of your gems. There was one day in the summer of 2003 when me and all the neighborhood kids just hung around outside. We flew kites, played sports, got ice cream from a truck, etc. We spent the whole day outside doing fun stuff. I remember going to bed thinking that it was a perfect day. I still think about it sometimes. I'll always miss the general feeling of summer growing up. It felt like it would never end. Just days on end of waking up, having breakfast, then playing video games, heading over to a friend's house to swim, riding bikes, playing baseball in the street, barbecues, road trips, etc. No responsibilities, no stress, no work, no school, just having fun outside with friends all day for months. I started working during the summers when I was 15 or 16, and it was pretty fun work, but I had a moment pretty early on where I realized that the last totally obligation-free summer I would have had already passed. That was a tough one. It's like realizing you're too old to trick or treat anymore. Literally the best part of having kids is getting to go trick or treating again. Trick or treat, mother ducker. Mama needs her candy. Lamau. My dad took me trick or treating when I was like 5 months old in a stroller so he could get all the candy for himself. Growing up I didn't realize how poor we were. My parents were amazing at providing for us. We loved watching baseball games and I wanted to go to a game so bad. We never could afford it. To make up for it, while we were at school, my mom made up tickets to that night's game and money for us to spend. When we got home she had set up chairs in front of the TV and numbered them. Gave us the tickets and money and told us to go clean up before the game. Come game time we lined up at the doorway, my dad took our tickets and told us how to get to our seats. After the game started my parents went to the kitchen and had a tray of hot dogs, candy and soda. Hot dogs. Get your hot dogs. We got out the money my mom made and bought whatever snacks we wanted. Best baseball game I've ever been to. Edit, spelling edit too. I'll dedicate the gold to my parents and spread the love. This genuinely made me tear up. No idea why, but it makes me realize how lucky I was growing up, always able to go to football, soccer games whenever I could. Sounds like your parents were great. I tear up whenever I tell it. It was awesome. I never knew we were as poor as we were until I grew up. We had more than we should have. I'm mostly on Reddit to argue. This is the only story that's ever really made me feel much. I hope I can be that good of a parent one day. Username checks out. Being a farm kid, sitting behind my older sister on a horse, ambling around our yard in the dark, looking up at the stars while my sister sang with the softest, most beautiful voice I've ever heard. I fell asleep leaning on her back as she sang. Epilogue. The next day at school I tried to eat a stick of chalk to make my voice softer like my sister's. It was a terrible failure. Yeah, it's big brain time. And I was the smart kid, so embarrassing. I don't want to know what the dumb kids did. The dumb kids make Kevin look smart. The epic failure that is Kevin. I hadn't seen that before. I don't understand how that whole family made it anywhere in the world. If there was a Reddit Hall of Fame, Kevin would be in the first class of inductees. I read his story 3 years ago. 8th grader Amanda, my first hard crush, telling 5th grade me that I was cute on the school bus. I don't know if I've ever been quite that happy again in the entire rest of my life. Don't tell my wife and kids I said that. That was a really sweet thing for her to do. 8th grade girls aren't exactly known for their inclusiveness and tenderness. I was maybe 5 or 6, and I woke up in the middle of the night to use the restroom. It was that perfect time where everything is quiet and dark and it just feels so still. When I walked through the living room, my grandfather was sitting in his chair at the table, drinking whiskey and eating buttered saltines. He invited me to sit with him and have a snack, which felt amazing to me since individual time with him was extremely rare. The room was lit only by the warm glow of the nightlight from the kitchen. I don't remember if we talked except for when he told me I'd better be back off to bed, but I remember how it felt. I remember his presence. How big his silhouette looked, sitting across from me. How calm and soothing it was just to be there. It's that kind of memory that just wraps itself around you and envelopes you in warmth. It's one of those moments where everything falls away and nothing else exists. Just dark, quiet, and some buttered crackers. He died of cancer not long after that, and that's one of the only memories I have of him. Very lovely imagery. I made my own little mental image of what you wrote and it felt like I was there. You should consider writing some short stories. Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. Smile. I used to write, but it kind of fell by the wayside for other passions. My stepfather designed theater sets and installed a jungle design in my room, after the play was over. I work in theater, in backstage right now, and this really made me smile. The reason we do this is to create that moment of wonder and joy in others. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Creative minds like yours made my childhood. He used many set props like the huge Wizard of Oz mask he made. We used for Halloween, built me a dollhouse out of cardboard with real electricity and everything. He gave me such an appreciation for fine arts and I even thank him for making me work on his sets growing up. Take care and hope you have success with your play. Not ducking thinking about tomorrow. Just woke up, hooked up with friends, spent all day playing stupid games, laughing, fighting, discovering. Nowadays if I have half a day to myself I think about how I can use it to do something work related so that I can take it easier on the working days. How bittersweet growing up is. Family vacation to Colorado to ski. They piled all the grandkids, me and 7 of my cousins, in the back of the van and removed the bench seats, replaced them with air mattresses. They hooked up a TV and VHS player and we all watched the original Scream movie while eating road trip snacks and annoying the life out of our grandparents. We stopped the moment we got to where there was snow to have a giant family snowball fight. We took pictures the whole ride on disposable cameras. I think my older cousins mooned a few unsuspecting strangers. 18 hours there and 18 hours back and the ride was just as good as the actual vacation. Scream is a great movie to watch on the road. My whole family shares a love of Halloween and scary movies, so I know it must have just come out on video and we begged our grandma to get it for us. Having lunch and getting ice cream with my mom and dad when I was 9 in London. My school had organized a school trip and gave me special permission to see my dad instead of going to the Science Museum. We rejoined them later to go see cats. Dad works away from home. Back then, we didn't see him often, maybe a couple times a month if we were lucky. We all got lunch, in near Portobello Road and then went to get the ice creams. My dad got a particularly huge one. To my mind, it was like 7 scoops. Everything seems massive when you're a kid, and it all fell onto his tie. We laughed, talked about music and their lives in London before marriage kids. We walked down the street, holding hands, me in the middle. I know it's such a non-event memory. I'm the youngest of 3 and this was the first, and possibly last time, I spent alone time with my parents, just us 3, like I was their only kid. It made me feel special. I cherish this memory so much. When I first figured out how to play drums. It was such a stereotypical movie moment, but I used to always play on an electric kit, not very well, but as soon as I sat behind an actual kit, something clicked in my brain and my hands could move like they hadn't before. If that moment hadn't happened, I don't think I'd be where I am today.